Welcome to my edible garden. In today's episode, I'll be showing you how I grew this beautiful bluey purple ancient heirloom maize sweetcorn from seed all the way up until harvest. So let's get into it, shall we? I first learnt about this variety of sweetcorn at a plant conscious event in London a few years ago. In fact, the original batch of seeds that these seeds held from were found in a cave in New Mexico amongst other artefacts. The seeds were then distributed out to growers, and I was lucky enough to be gifted some at the Plant Conscious event. I directly sow my seeds into the ground beds in March, and after a month you'll start to see the seedlings germinating. Between the 2 to 3 month mark you'll start seeing leaves forming and pushing up. Now there's a saying that goes that your sweetcorn needs to be waist high by the 4th of July. By the 4 to 5 month mark, the sweetcorn plants will start tasseling, producing pollen, and will start forming the silks on top of the sweetcorn. And by the 7th month, the sweetcorn was ready to start harvesting. Once my sweetcorn plants started pushing through, I covered them with these plastic bottles that you see here, which not only acted as a greenhouse kind of effect, but also kept the slugs out. I originally set out to plant 2 rows of the sweetcorn, but in my haste planted them all in one line and realised that I'd planted them way too close. So once they had pushed up stronger, I decided to separate the rows, as you can see here, space them out and put them into 2 rows. And at this stage they were big and strong enough for me to uncover. I like the way that the blue maize grows because it has kind of like a curly pattern to the leaf. And some of them, I don't know if you can see, have like a purple tint in their leaves as well. This is the dark blue, purpley black variety. Once the sweetcorn hit the 3 month mark, it started growing a lot more rapidly and pushing up a lot more central leaves. And after 3.5 months, the leaves started filling out and looking really voluptuous and a lot more fuller. Between the 4 to 5 month stage, you'll start to notice that the plants will not only start pushing up a lot taller, but will also start forming tassels. When they do, they really do shoot right up. And it was at this stage that I realised that I needed to start putting in a string to support the sweetcorn plants because they were leaning over. So as you can see here, I've got a white string that goes across the centre holding them up, which is connected to my fence. And by the 5 month mark, some of the plants had reached over 10 foot tall as they pushed out the tassels. Now the tassels are what the pollen forms on, which I'll explain in the next clip. You can see at the top there, it's pushing out tassels, and that's what the pollen forms on. Once that pushes up, as you can see, you'll start noticing at certain points along the stalk that you'll start seeing corn forming, and I'll show you how it works. Now if you can see this part of the stem, it's starting to swell here, and if we follow it up here, you can see that it's starting to push out this. This is what is going to be your sweetcorn kernel, and you'll end up getting some silks coming out once that gets a bit more mature. And if you go down a bit further on here, this variety is very sturdy, so you're going to have a lot of sweetcorn on these. I'll go over to one that's actually started to silk and you'll see what I mean, the difference. Can you see here now, you start getting silks coming up here. And it's starting to bulge here. As you can see, it's tasseling, starting to mature. And once it does, it will drop, push up and drop down. And the pollen needs to land on this, which is what pollinates it. Each one of those silks needs to have pollen on it. Each one of those silks is actually connected to a sweetcorn grain. In this picture, you'll be able to see that the sweetcorn silks are attached to the sweetcorn kernels. You can help by collecting pollen, shaking it off the tassels, and then putting it on top of the silks. This will help ensure that your sweetcorn kernels have all been pollinated. And by the 7th month, the sweetcorn was ready to harvest. This particular variety of maize sweetcorn took an extra month and a half longer to grow in comparison to its yellow sweetcorn cousins, and grew over 13 foot tall. Once your sweetcorn silks have dried up and are brown, your sweetcorn will be ready to harvest. If you're unsure, you can always peel away some of the foliage around the cob to see if the colour of the sweetcorn is ready. Thank you for watching this episode of My Edible Garden. In our next episode, I'll be taking you along with me on a daily garden harvest, and we'll show you what kinds of fruit and vegetables that I was harvesting in the last week of June. If you like this episode of My Edible Garden and want to see more episodes, please click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell in order to stay notified when we upload new videos. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed.